Piers Morgan. I do think he is someone that goes in whichever way the wind is blowing, ultimately. Much as he might pretend to have very staunch, principled opinions, that just seems to me the way he does things. Whether it's on COVID, used to be super pro-lockdown, now he's, it was a big mistake. Whether it's on Israel, I defend them, but now it's terrible, it's evil. He just kind of, I don't really respect that so much. But anyway, I want to show you this clip because he talks to Glenn Beck about Glenn's perspective on the war with Iran. Obviously, there are some people on the conservative right, quote unquote, because I don't really think they are conservative, who are, very hostile to the war. They're isolationists. Glenn gives his perspective. Before I show you Glenn's perspective on Iran, they have a little conversation halfway through about this infighting that's happening on the conservative side. The Groypers versus the standard classical conservatives. And it was just funny to me to see this because Glenn kind of says we really have to not do ad hominem attacks, and you'll see in a moment why it was quite rich to see Piers Morgan agreeing with that. Have a watch.
There's a lot, as you know, the whole conservative movement in America right now is split in a way I've never seen it before. You've got the Ben Shapiro's on one side, you've got Tucker and Megyn Kelly and others on the other. Everyone's, raging away, but they're also having massive ideological disputes over a number of different issues in a way I've never seen. What do you make of this quickly, and how do you see this playing out?
I unfortunately see it destroying so many people on all sides of this. I mean, I'm not engaging in. I'm too old for this, especially when we get to micro penis. I think too old means I'm 13.
What he's referring to is Megyn Kelly calling Mark Levin micro penis, that kind of stuff.
To engage in that, but we need to have the conversation about principles and not the people. I mean, I thought about you coming on today. I thought, I used to say horrible things about you. I didn't know you. And Piers, every time we get together, we might disagree with things, but we can have a conversation. Yeah. That's the way we have to solve this.
I agree. And we have
cannot just keep torpedoing each other's personalities.
And we don't descend into really bad ad hominem stuff, which I think is often the refuse of somebody who doesn't really want to have the argument because they know potentially their argument is fragile.
Times are too serious in your country, in my country, in the entire Western world. This is not playtime. Yeah. This is time for adults to sit down and have logical conversations and say, ask any question. Everything is fair, but let's have a logical discussion about it.
Yeah. Glenn Beck, great to have you back.
So Piers says, I disagree. I agree. We shouldn't have ad hominem attacks, shouldn't attack, people, stupid, childish stuff, playground stuff about the way people look or whatever. Let's just talk about the ideas and the facts. Have you seen Piers Morgan's Twitter? Here he is on Twitter saying, I'll reply to little Benji's latest hissy fit on tomorrow's Piers Morgan with a special guest, specially booked to make him throw another toddler tantrum. Posting a picture satirizing Ben Shapiro's height. I thought Piers says he agrees that we shouldn't do ad hominem attacks. I mean, this was literally just the other day. Why did he post this? I think it was because Ben said, I don't want to go on Piers' show because he finds it a bit of a clown show where he just gets on people from very extreme perspectives and just lets them go at it more for entertainment than actually productive conversation. So I just thought it was a bit rich of Piers to be saying that, right? Given that he sort of says, yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that. By the way, my critique of Piers Morgan that I said at the start here, that's not personal attack about him personally. He's the kind of ad hominem stuff we saw him just doing with Ben Shapiro. It's talking about very much the ideas. And I'm saying you seem to be someone that's blowing in the wind, whichever way the wind blows. You seem to just be jumping on the fastest train in town with regard to your opinions. And that's a critique about the ideas, about the facts. I just want to make that point clear. But now let's have a watch of what Glenn Beck had to say about the Iran war and his assessment, particularly given all the differing opinions on the right.
You're back on Uncensored. Been meaning to talk to you about this war. What is your overview here? It seems to me a lot of things can be true at the same time. The Iranian regime is vile and evil, and no one should shed tears for the Ayatollah being killed or any of the top people running it. But that this massive strike by America in conjunction with Israel is already looking like it's not going to be anywhere near as easy as President Trump hoped it would be. It's not
Oh, well, therefore we should do nothing?
going to be like Venezuela and these other situations. I mean, you add the Strait of Hormuz crisis, you add the attacks by Iran on the Gulf states and so on. Now, this has got the potential to become a massive hornet's nest, hasn't it?
So I have to tell you, I mean, I've been listening to the guests, and with all respect to everybody, how the hell do you know what it's going to turn into? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. I know that I'm glad I'm not the president of the United States. I wouldn't have had the guts to do it. Every president since Ronald Reagan said, we got to take care of that, got to take care of that. And they all kick the can down the road because they know this could be a nightmare. They know what Iran, the tentacles of Iran means. This president just decided, we don't know on what, but he decided, I'm going to go for it. So he goes for it. I know it wouldn't have been the decision that I would have made only because I'm a coward. This president is like, I'm just going to take care of it. So he does. How this works out, I don't know. It could be fabulous. Could be World War III. I think that's a much more logical place to be than arguing whether we should be in it or not, because that's not going to change anything.
But what about Glenn? I mean, I agree with you. I have no idea how this is going to play out. And if it was to play out successfully in the longer run for Trump, it could be a triumph. I mean, I wouldn't rule that out.
Right.
However,
and I don't care if it plays out well for Trump. I want it to play out well for the Iranian people, but America first. Yeah. But the rest of the world, too. If we can make the world safer, that's great.
By playing out well for Trump, I'm assuming that if it played out that way, it would be obviously also good for Trump. But if it played out, I could see a situation where this plays out very badly for him. And in relation to you not wanting to do that because you're a coward, A, you're not a coward. But secondly, I do think it was an unbelievably big gamble for Donald Trump to take. Huge. I mean, a legacy-defining gamble. And I'm slightly, I've known him a long time like you. I'm slightly wrestling with the logic of doing it now with all the complexity and the difficulty involved in going after Iran in this way, given that he's facing the midterms in 6 months or so, already looking like he may lose the House, may now lose the Senate. We don't know. I'm not going to make any prediction. But if he was to lose both and lose all power over Congress, he becomes the kind of lamest of lame duck presidents for the last 2 years. And you're like...
Huge gamble.
And he didn't need to do it now, did he? I mean, his thing about there's going to be a nuclear weapon.
So I don't know, because I don't know.
I don't believe that.
Right. I don't know what the intel was. And I said on day one, don't tell me about weapons of mass destruction. They're 2 weeks away from a nuclear weapon. I've heard that since, the 1990s. I'm tired of that.
Yeah.
You show me the proof and I'll go there.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the intel was, et cetera, et cetera. I do know what is different this time around, and it doesn't mean it's going to work out, is we talk a lot about the ally of Israel, but the allies all throughout the Middle East are different this time. They are, he put that Council of Peace together. And what I think he's trying to do is he's already done it to Europe. He's trying to show Europe, you're toast. You are toast if you can't defend yourself, because we're not going to be able to defend you forever. And quite honestly, you're living a pipe dream. Go ahead and try to raise an army with all of the people that you have in your country now that you've let in. So he's taking care of that and saying, we're not going to be babysitting this. We're not going to babysit the Middle East. And I think between the Abraham Accords, the Peace Council that he put together, he built this coalition that he thinks that we're going to be able to go and strategically hit, not break it like we did in Iraq and Afghanistan, but disable it so that Council of Middle East can take control of that region and we can get the hell out. I think that's what he was thinking.
But how does it sit, Glenn? How does it sit with Donald Trump, the campaigner for the 2024 election, repeatedly saying that unlike Biden, Obama, all the others that came before him, I will not take this country into any more of these expensive, unnecessary wars in the Middle East. I'm going to focus on America first. I'm going to focus on the economy. I'm going to bring things roaring back. I'm going to sort out inflation. I'm going to sort out cost of living. When I say this could be a disaster for him in many ways, one way is simply that if the Strait of Hormuz does not reopen properly for weeks or months, God forbid, the knock-on effect in a few months' time on the American cost of living of the average American, both at the gas pump, food prices, and so on, from that Strait of Hormuz being strangled for a sustained period of time, could be absolutely unprecedented and horrendous.
Let me make it worse for you. The 2008 collapse happened because we had sustained oil prices over $130 a barrel. The Western world is not built for $130 a barrel sustained. If this goes poorly, it will collapse the economy, and not just ours, but of the West. It is a massive, massive gamble. However, I look at it again and just not endorsing, not anything, just trying to understand his mindset. He told me at one point, I was talking to him about other things, and I said, "Are you gonna be able to take care of these things in 4 years?" He said, "Glenn, I've got 2." If you're wanting to fix the American economy and get away from the World Economic Forum and everything else, you have to fix the big fundamentals first. And so that's what he's doing. He's fixing the fundamentals as he sees them. If you don't get us out of the Middle East, we're going to go back into the Middle East, the next president, because there'll be another war. What he's trying to do, and it may work and be miraculous, it may not and be horrible, but that's his gamble. Let me take care of these things now. I've got 2 years, and those 2 years are almost up. Let me take care of all of this stuff now. Then the peace dividend that, he hopes is going to come from this will then be able to quell everything else. That's why I say I'm glad I wasn't in the room even near the question, because this is the biggest gamble I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But he is also an extraordinarily he doesn't get credit for this, an extraordinarily intelligent man. He is not duped. I just don't believe that he was duped into this. He's very clear, and he's been clear about this since 1982 on record, saying what he would do.
The thing that worried me...
And I have to say that there's a few key points that I feel like I would also want to add into this whole equation. Number one is Piers says, what's the risk? What could the potential cost be of this? It could be dramatic. Well, what's the cost of doing nothing? That's the other point. There's been so many senior administration officials saying that the threats were imminent. And, one of the things that I think needs to be asked is, certainly from Israel's standpoint, Israel has other enemies, as does America, that they know they can contain. So they contain them, but they don't go for complete regime destruction. What would motivate them to want to go into Iran now? Unless they realise that there was a high risk that containment would not be possible. It's Occam's razor. What's the most likely reason for that? If Israel or America could find a much cheaper way of containing their enemies, cheaper in every sense, the cost of life, economically, militarily, they would go for that. Steve Witkoff said that the Iranians taunted them, that they were rebuilding quickly the nuclear facilities that were clearly intended to create weapons that had been scaled back in the 12-day war last year. It's interesting. Glenn talks about, and Piers talks about the midterms. It's a risk with the midterms. I think actually this is testament to Trump doing what he thinks needs to be done for the good of America, for the good of the West. Yes, for the good of Israel too. Because he understands it's in America's interest that Israel survives, that Israel is the first pit stop on the Islamist tour of destruction. They go for the West and America next. And I think it's testament to Trump's character that maybe he's prepared to take this gamble, prepared to deal with the midterms because of a longer term question. Because he's actually interested in doing the right thing here. And he's facing so much pressure. Parts of MAGA, that are quote-unquote MAGA, the Tucker Carlsons and others, who he's now said are not part of MAGA. From the staunch isolationists, from even this guy Joe Kent who resigned, although it's a bit more fishy what's actually going on there, given these all these reports that he was leaking information and trying to get ahead of the curve by resigning and creating a distraction letter. But the point is, I think instead of everyone jumping towards the critiques, I say give President Trump, and of course Netanyahu as well, great credit for doing something that is to protect all of us. Why else does one take such a massive gamble like this? But it's not a gamble really, because when someone rises to kill you, you rise up and kill them first. There's no gamble there. The only gamble is doing nothing. In fact, that's suicide. I think maybe part of this comes from the scars of the Iraq War. Maybe not having access to all the intelligence. And therefore there's some kind of skepticism. I get all that. I get it. But in the end, when it comes to Iran, I say judge them by their actions. Look at what they tried to do, and have been doing, with Israel. Going to war directly, funding these proxies, the ballistic missiles being built up, all the nuclear progress. As soon as, I think for some people in America, they can't understand the connection. What's that got to do with us? America gets such good value for money in funding Israel. When I say funding, they give a drop in the ocean of the federal budget, a couple $2 billion a year in military aid, which Israel is now winning itself off. But if America wants to replicate what Israel did with Mossad, with intelligence, with their military in the Middle East, it would cost them 10 times, 100 times what they're giving in military aid. And as I say, they are shared enemies. Israel's in the hornet's nest. So I think we need to say all of this completely unapologetically. And one point just to leave you with, another great misconception that needs to be debunked is this whole, well, Judaism and Zionism are separate, they're not connected, and I'm against Zionism, but I've got no problem with Judaism. That's a lie, it's a myth. They are deeply intertwined, it's a false separation, and that's what our new documentary on JTV Plus is all about. Have a watch of the trailer, and if you want to watch the full thing, just click on the link below right now in the video description. I'm not against Judaism, I'm just against Zionism.
It's not Jewish, it's Zionism.
Yeah. Judaism and Zionism are completely separate.
You know, Judaism is a faith, Israel is a state.
You can be Jewish without being a Zionist.
Zionism and Judaism is totally diametrically opposed.
I'm sure you've heard this before, from protesters, from politicians, from even well-meaning people trying to navigate the Israel-Palestine debate. But I'm here to tell you that this separation is complete nonsense. It's a comfortable lie. The kind of lie that sounds intelligent but collapses the moment you actually open this book, the Torah, the Bible, and study Judaism on its own terms. In this JTV Plus documentary, we're going to tackle this myth head on. We'll actually look inside the Torah and see how in the very first book, Genesis, there's no mention of law or religion. It's all centered on the promise of a specific land to a specific nation. We'll trace how Judaism, not modern politics, but Judaism itself, is structured around one obsessive, relentless, undeniable claim: the land of Israel belongs to the Jews. We'll reveal why the building of a nation in the land of Israel is an indispensable part of the project of Judaism. Why Judaism is not a religion, it's the divine project of a nation in a land. We'll discover how the Torah preemptively answered the colonization accusation that wouldn't fully materialize for another 3,000 years. We'll explore why, if the land is so central, Jews had to spend thousands of years in global exile. We'll unpack what Zionism actually means, and how anti-Zionism doesn't just contradict Israeli policy, it contradicts the fundamental architecture of Judaism itself. For some people, this is going to be uncomfortable viewing, but by the end, we'll prove beyond any reasonable doubt that Judaism and Zionism are inseparable. To watch this JTV Plus documentary and access much more premium content, click on the link in the video description.